I was standing in front of my father's grave, holding a letter he had written just 3 days before he passed. The paper was worn from how many times I had read it. After 3 years of watching him fight cancer, I was the only one who stayed by his side until the end. He left me our family home and $180,000 in savings. I thought that was his final gift of love. But at his funeral, my younger brother Derek said something that made my blood run cold. That single sentence started a nightmare that would last 6 months. Before I begin this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If you believe that family should be a place of love, not a place where people use each other, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me tell you why I had to make the hardest decision of my entire life. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in a modest middle-class neighborhood where everyone knew each other by name. Our family was small but complete. My father, William, worked as a construction engineer, and my mother was a school teacher who filled our home with warmth and laughter. Life felt simple and safe back then. Everything changed when I was 12 years old. My mother was driving home from the grocery store on a rainy November evening when a truck ran a red light and hit her car. She died on impact. I still remember the sound of my father's voice when he told us. It was like something inside him shattered and never fully healed. Derek was only 9 at the time. He looked so much like our mother, with the same gentle eyes and the same smile that could light up a room. I think that resemblance made my father hold on to Derek a little tighter. I never resented it. I understood that when my father looked at Derek, he saw a piece of the woman he had lost. So I stepped up. I learned to cook, to clean, to help with homework. I became the responsible one because someone had to be. As we grew older, the difference between Derek and me became more obvious. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school, saved every dollar I could, and paid for most of my college tuition through loans and scholarships. My father helped where he could, but I never wanted to burden him. Derek, on the other hand, had his entire education paid for by our father. Private tutors when his grades slipped. A new car when he turned 18. Money whenever he asked for it. I never complained. I told myself that Derek was the baby of the family, that he needed more support. But deep down I noticed how different our paths were becoming. Derek graduated from college with a business degree, but he could never hold a job for more than a few months. It was always someone else's fault. His boss was unfair. His coworkers were jealous. The company did not appreciate his talents. Every time he quit or got fired, our father would send him money to cover rent or bills. And every time Derek promised he would figure things out soon. Meanwhile, I built my career as an accountant. I bought a small apartment, paid my bills on time, and lived within my means. I visited our father every weekend, helped him with repairs around the house, and made sure he never felt alone. Derek called maybe once a month, usually when he needed something. Then came the diagnosis that changed everything. My father was 61 years old when the doctors found pancreatic cancer stage 3. They gave him a year, maybe 2 if the treatment worked. I remember sitting in that hospital room, holding his hand, feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. I requested a leave of absence from my job. 6 months without pay. My boss thought I was crazy, but I did not care. My father needed me and nothing else mattered. For the next 3 years I was there for every chemotherapy session, every doctor's appointment, every sleepless night when the pain was too much for him to bear. I learned how to administer his medications, how to prepare meals that he could keep down, how to read to him when his eyes grew too tired. We talked about everything during those long nights. About my mother, about his regrets, about his hopes for Derek and me. Derek promised to visit. He always had an excuse. Work was busy. His girlfriend needed him. His car broke down. In 3 years he came to see our father a total of 5 times. 5 times in 3 years. On the last night of my father's life, he held my hand and looked at me with eyes that had seen too much pain. He whispered, "You are my greatest pride, Charlie. Never forget that." He passed away 2 hours later peacefully in my arms. Derek did not make it in time. He was 300 miles away, probably sleeping when our father took his last breath. The funeral was held at a small church in our hometown. About 50 people came to pay their respects. Old friends of my father, neighbors, a few relatives who had not visited in years. I stood at the front, accepting condolences, feeling hollow inside. Derek arrived late with a woman I had never seen before. Her name was Stephanie, and she was everything my father would have disapproved of. Bright red lipstick, a dress that was far too short and tight for a funeral, and a look in her eyes that calculated the value of everything she saw. Derek introduced her as his girlfriend of 4 months, the love of his life. I shook her hand and said nothing. This was not the time or place. After the service, the family gathered at our father's house for the reading of the will. Our father's lawyer, a kind old man named Mr. Patterson, read the document aloud. The house and $180,000 in savings went to me. Derek received $20,000. The room went silent. I could feel Derek's eyes burning into me before I even looked up. Then he exploded. "This is not fair," he shouted, standing up so fast his chair fell backward. "You manipulated him. You were there every day, whispering in his ear, turning him against me. You stole my inheritance." I tried to stay calm. "Derek, I did not write the will. Dad made his own choices. Because you brainwashed him." Derek spat. "You always thought you were better than me. This proves it." I had no words. The accusation was so absurd, so painful that I could not even respond. People were staring. Some looked sympathetic. Others, like Aunt Linda, looked at me with suspicion in their eyes. That was just the beginning. 1 week after the funeral, Derek and Stephanie showed up at my apartment unannounced. Stephanie walked in like she owned the place, looking around with that same calculating gaze. "We have wonderful news," she announced, holding up her left hand to show off a diamond ring. "We are getting married in 6 months." I offered my congratulations, though something in my gut told me this was not a social visit. Stephanie smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. "We have found the perfect venue, a resort in California right on the beach. We are planning for 300 guests. It is going to be absolutely magical." Derek nodded eagerly. "The only problem is the cost. The wedding is going to be about $120,000. I felt my stomach drop. I knew where this was going. "Charlie," Derek said, his voice taking on that familiar pleading tone, "I need you to give me your inheritance. Dad would have wanted to see me happy. You have a stable job, a good career. I have nothing. This wedding is my chance to start fresh." I stared at him in disbelief. "You want me to hand over $120,000 for a party?" Stephanie stepped forward, her smile turning cold. "It is not just a party. It is our future. Your father would be ashamed of how selfish you are being right now." I took a deep breath, trying to control my anger. "Dad left you $20,000. He left me the rest because I was the one who took care of him. I am not giving you my inheritance for a wedding." "Then what are you going to do with it?" Derek demanded. "I am setting up a scholarship fund in Dad's name, to help students who lost their parents pay for college." Derek laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "A scholarship fund while your own brother struggles. That is rich, Charlie. That is really rich." Stephanie gathered her purse and headed for the door. "Come on, Derek. He is clearly not going to help. Your father would be so disappointed in him." They left, slamming the door behind them. Within days, the phone calls started. Aunt Linda was first. She told me I was being cruel and petty, that families should take care of each other, that our father would have wanted me to help Derek. When I tried to explain, she cut me off. "You were always the favorite," she said. "You manipulated William when he was sick and vulnerable. The least you can do is share what you took." Then came the calls from cousins I barely knew, old friends of my father, even neighbors. Derek had been busy. He posted his version of the story on Facebook, painting me as the greedy older brother who stole everything and left him with nothing. Comments poured in, calling me heartless, selfish, a disgrace to my father's memory. I stopped answering my phone. I stopped checking social media. I felt like a criminal in my own family, punished for a crime I did not commit. The only person who reached out with kindness was my grandmother, Eleanor. She was 82 years old, sharp as ever, and she had seen enough family drama in her lifetime to recognize the truth. "Charlie," she said in her soft, steady voice, "I know what you did for your father. I know how much you sacrificed. Do not let them bully you into giving up what is rightfully yours. Your father made that will for a reason." Her words were the only thing keeping me sane. A month after the funeral, I decided to clean out my father's house before putting it up for sale. It was harder than I expected, going through his belongings, touching the clothes he used to wear, finding photos I had forgotten existed. In the back of his closet, hidden behind old winter coats, I found a metal box I had never seen before. Inside were bank statements, letters, and documents that made my hands tremble. The bank statements showed a series of withdrawals over the past 2 years. Large sums totaling $70,000, all transferred to Derek's account. The memo line said things like business investment and startup capital. But there was more. A letter my father had written but never sent, addressed to Derek. "I know you have been lying to me," the letter read. "I know there is no business, no investment. I know about the gambling, about the debts you have been hiding. I have given you $70,000 because I love you, and I wanted to help you find your way. But I cannot do this anymore. I am leaving you less in my will, not because I love you less, but because I know you will spend every dollar within a year. I hope someday you will understand." I sat on the floor of my father's closet and cried. He had known all along. He had protected Derek's secret, even as it broke his heart, and Derek had the audacity to accuse me of manipulation. I called Derek the next day and asked him to come over. He arrived alone, suspicious but curious. I showed him the bank statements, the letter, everything I had found. Dad knew, I said quietly. He knew about the gambling. He gave you $70,000 and you lied to him about where it went. Derek's face went through several emotions. Shock, then fear, then defiance. He gave me that money willingly, Derek said. It was his choice. He gave it because he loved you and you exploited that love. You lied to him while he was dying. I did not lie. I had problems, okay, financial problems. He wanted to help. He wanted to help you build a business. You gambled it away and came back for more. Derek's jaw tightened. You think you are so perfect, do you not? The good son, the one who stayed, the one who sacrificed. You only did it to get his money. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because he was my father and he was dying. Where were you, Derek? Where were you when he was crying in pain at 3 a.m? Where were you when he could not eat, could not sleep, could not remember what day it was? I had my own life, Derek shouted. I could not just drop everything. But you could show up for the money. The front door opened and Stephanie walked in, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. What is going on here? She asked, looking between us. Derek turned to her for support. Charlie found some old bank records. He is trying to use them against me. Stephanie's eyes narrowed. This is harassment. Derek, we should talk to a lawyer. We can sue him for defamation, for emotional distress, for contesting the will. Go ahead, I said, my voice steady. Sue me. But ask yourself why Dad left things the way he did. Ask yourself why a man who loved both his sons chose to give one so much more than the other. Stephanie grabbed Derek's arm. Come on. We do not have to listen to this. As they walked out, Derek paused at the door. This is not over, Charlie. I will get what I deserve. After they left, I sat alone in my father's empty house, surrounded by ghosts and memories. I knew Derek would not stop. Stephanie would push him, manipulate him until they found a way to take everything. But something did not sit right about Stephanie. The way she calculated everything, the way she controlled Derek, the way she had appeared out of nowhere just months before our father died. I decided to do some research. I hired a private investigator named Marcus Webb, a former police detective with a reputation for discretion. I gave him everything I knew about Stephanie and asked him to dig deeper. 2 weeks later, he delivered his report. What I read made my stomach turn. Stephanie had been married twice before. Both marriages ended in divorce within 2 years. Both ex-husbands filed for bankruptcy shortly after the divorce. One of them claimed in court documents that she had systematically drained his savings, maxed out credit cards in his name, and disappeared with everything of value. But that was not the worst part. Marcus had obtained phone records and text messages between Stephanie and a man named Brandon Hayes, a personal trainer she had been seeing throughout her relationship with Derek. The messages were damning. He is such an idiot, Stephanie wrote about Derek. He actually believes I love him. Once I get my hands on his brother's money, we can finally be together. How long will you have to stay married to him? Brandon asked. A year, maybe 2, long enough to clean him out. Then I am all yours, baby. There were more messages, dozens of them, detailing their plan to use Derek as a stepping stone to financial security. They even discussed buying a house together with the inheritance money. I felt sick. Part of me wanted to confront Stephanie immediately to expose her for the predator she was. But another part of me felt something unexpected. Pity for Derek. He was about to make the biggest mistake of his life, marrying a woman who saw him as nothing more than a means to an end. Despite everything he had done, despite the lies and accusations and cruelty, he was still my brother. I decided I would expose the truth. Not for revenge, but to save him from destroying what was left of his life. I planned carefully. I invited Derek, Stephanie, Aunt Linda, and several family members to dinner at our father's house. I told them I had been doing a lot of thinking and wanted to make peace. I hinted that I might be willing to help with the wedding after all. Stephanie was practically glowing when they arrived. She complimented the house, asked about its value, and suggested it would make a wonderful wedding venue. Derek seemed cautiously optimistic, like he wanted to believe his brother had finally come around. We sat down to eat. I had prepared our father's favorite meal, roast chicken with vegetables and mashed potatoes. Aunt Linda commented on how nice it was to see the family together, how our father would have wanted this. I let them eat. I let them relax. I let Stephanie believe she had won. Then between the main course and dessert, I stood up. Before we continue, I said I want to share something with everyone. I put together a video tribute to Dad, some memories I thought you would all appreciate. I connected my laptop to the television and pressed play. The video started with photos of our father, images from his youth, his wedding holidays with the family. People smiled. Aunt Linda wiped her eyes. Then the photos faded to black, and new images appeared. Bank statements showing the $70,000 Derek had taken. The letter our father wrote but never sent. The private investigator's report on Stephanie. And finally, the text messages between Stephanie and Brandon. I read them aloud as they appeared on screen. He is such an idiot. He actually believes I love him. Once I get my hands on his brother's money, we can finally be together. The room was silent. Completely, utterly silent. Stephanie's face went pale. She stood up, knocking over her wine glass. This is fake. This is all fabricated. Derek, say something. But Derek was not looking at her. He was staring at the screen, at the messages, at the proof of her betrayal laid out for everyone to see. Derek, Stephanie said, her voice rising with panic. You cannot believe this. Your brother is trying to destroy us. Derek finally turned to look at her. His eyes were empty, hollow, like something inside him had just died. Get out, he said quietly. What? Get out of this house. Get out of my life. I never want to see you again. Stephanie's mask finally cracked. The sweet, loving girlfriend disappeared, replaced by something ugly and desperate. You ungrateful little man, she spat. I wasted 4 months of my life on you. 4 months pretending to care about your boring stories and your dead father and your pathetic dreams. You were never going to be anything without me. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door, turning back one final time. You deserve each other, she hissed. 2 losers, clinging to the memory of a man who probably never loved either of you. The door slammed behind her. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Derek did something I had not seen since we were children. He started to cry. Not just tears, but deep, heaving sobs that shook his entire body. He buried his face in his hands and wept like his heart was breaking. I walked over and sat beside him. I did not say anything. I just put my hand on his shoulder and let him cry. Aunt Linda approached us, her face streaked with tears of her own. Charlie, she said softly, I am so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have known better. One by one, the family members who had doubted me, who had called me selfish and cruel, came forward to apologize. They had all been fooled by Derek's story, by Stephanie's manipulation, by their own assumptions about who I was. But their apologies, while appreciated, felt hollow. The damage had been done. My father was gone, and no amount of sorry could bring back the peace of his final months. The weeks after that dinner were some of the hardest of my life. I had won, I suppose. I had exposed the truth and protected my inheritance. But victory felt empty. I would lie awake at night staring at the ceiling thinking about my father. Remembering the way he smiled when I brought him soup, the sound of his laugh when I read him funny stories, the weight of his hand in mine as he took his final breath. I missed him. I missed him so much it felt like a physical ache in my chest. I visited his grave often, sometimes just to sit in silence, sometimes to talk. I told him about Derek, about Stephanie, about everything that had happened. I hoped somehow he could hear me. One afternoon, sitting by his headstone, I finally let myself cry. Really cry the way I had not allowed myself to since he died. I had been so busy being strong, being responsible, being the good son that I had never truly grieved. When the tears finally stopped, I felt something shift inside me. Not happiness exactly, but peace. A quiet acceptance of what had happened and what could not be changed. I returned to work. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my father's illness. I started running in the mornings, cooking real meals, instead of eating takeout, taking care of myself the way my father had always wanted me to. And I kept my promise. I used part of the inheritance to establish the William Thompson Memorial Scholarship Fund, dedicated to helping students who had lost parents pay for their education. The first scholarship was awarded 6 months later to a young woman whose mother had died of cancer. When she thanked me, tears streaming down her face, I felt my father's presence more strongly than I had in months. Derek reached out 3 months after the dinner. A text message at first, just a few words, "Can we talk? We met at a coffee shop near my apartment." He looked different than I remembered. Thinner, quieter, with dark circles under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. "I have been seeing a therapist," he said, staring into his coffee cup. "She helped me understand some things about myself, about why I do what I do." I listened without interrupting. "The gambling started after Mom died," he continued. "I was so angry, so lost. Gambling made me feel like I had control over something, but it controlled me instead. And then I kept lying because I was ashamed, and the lies got bigger and bigger until I could not find my way back to the truth." He looked up at me, his eyes wet. "I am sorry, Charlie. For everything. For taking Dad's money. For blaming you. For believing Stephanie over my own brother. You deserved better. Dad deserved better." I took a moment before responding. The anger I had carried for months was still there, but smaller, now quieter. "I'm not going to pretend everything is okay," I said. "You hurt me. You hurt Dad. That does not just disappear because you apologize." Derek nodded, accepting this. "But you are my brother," I continued. "And I'm willing to try. Not to go back to how things were, because that was not healthy for either of us. But maybe we can build something new. Something honest." For the first time in as long as I could remember, Derek smiled. A real smile, small and tentative, but genuine. "I would like that," he said. We started meeting regularly after that. Coffee once a week, then dinner once a month. We talked about things we had never discussed before. Our mother, our father, the ways we had both been shaped and scarred by loss. It was awkward at first, like learning to walk again after an injury, but slowly, carefully, we rebuilt our relationship from the ground up. The most meaningful change was visiting our father's grave together. Every month on the anniversary of his death, we would stand side by side and pay our respects. Derek would apologize to our father, and I would tell him about the scholarship fund, about the lives being changed in his name. It felt like healing, not just for us, but for his memory, too. Looking back now, I understand that the inheritance was never really about money. It was a test, a final lesson from our father about what truly matters. He taught me that standing up for yourself is not the same as being selfish, that protecting your boundaries is a form of self-respect, that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a comfortable lie. He also taught me about forgiveness, not the kind that pretends nothing happened, but the kind that acknowledges the hurt and chooses to move forward anyway. Forgiving Derek was not about excusing his behavior. It was about freeing myself from the weight of resentment. Sometimes I wonder what my father would think if he could see us now. Derek attending his support group meetings, working a steady job, slowly rebuilding his life. The two of us laughing together over dinner, sharing memories of our childhood, being brothers in a way we never were before. I think he would be proud. Not because everything turned out perfectly, but because we learned from our mistakes and chose to be better. The inheritance money is mostly gone now. Some went to taxes, some to the scholarship fund, some to repairs on the house that I eventually sold. But the real inheritance, the one my father left me, cannot be measured in dollars. It is the memory of his love, the lessons he taught me about integrity and compassion, the strength to stand alone when everyone turned against me, and the wisdom to open my heart when the time was right. If you are watching this and going through something similar, if your family is tearing itself apart over money or property or old wounds that never healed, I want you to know this. You are not crazy for wanting to protect yourself. You are not selfish for honoring the wishes of someone who loved you. And you are not alone in feeling like the whole world has turned against you. But I also want you to know that things can get better. Not overnight, not easily, but eventually. People can change. Relationships can heal. And sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us to the people we were always meant to become. Now, I would love to hear from you. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who felt entitled to something that was not theirs? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And remember, the people who truly love you will never ask you to sacrifice your worth for their comfort. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.